The Galactic Academy of Xenobiology stood on the third moon of a world made entirely of blue crystal and floating clouds. Students came here from every corner of the known universe. They came to learn about life on other planets. They came to understand how different species survived in different worlds. And most importantly, they came to learn which planets were dangerous. Earth was at the top of that list. Professor walked into the lecture hall with slow, careful steps. He was a species known for their 4 arms and silver skin that shimmered like liquid metal. His large black eyes scanned the room as students took their seats. They were with their soft fur and long ears. They were with their transparent skin that showed their green blood flowing underneath. There were small creatures with 6 legs and hard shells on their backs. And in the very back row, sitting alone near the window, there was a human. His name he was 23 years old, and he was the only human at the Galactic Academy this semester. He had arrived 2 months ago through the student exchange program between Earth and the Galactic Council. Most aliens kept their distance from him. They smiled politely when they passed him in the hallways, but they never sat next to him in class. They never invited him to study groups. They never asked him to join them for meals. Did not mind. He was used to being alone. Back on Earth, he had been a quiet student who preferred books over parties. Here in space, nothing had changed. He sat in the back row because he liked watching everyone from a distance. He liked observing how different species moved and talked and laughed. It made him feel like a scientist studying strange creatures. The funny thing was, to everyone else in the room, he was the strange creature. Professor pressed a button on his desk, and the lights in the room went dim. A large holographic screen appeared in the center of the hall, floating in the air like a ghost. The students leaned forward in their seats. Lectures were famous for being terrifying. He specialized in deadly organisms, poisonous plants, and dangerous environments. Last week, he had shown them a creature from the swamps of Seven that could melt bones with its saliva. The week before that, he had discussed a fungus that could take control of a host's brain and make them walk into volcanoes. Today's topic was different. Today, he would talk about Earth. "Good morning, students," said. His voice was deep and smooth, like honey poured over gravel. "Today, we will discuss one of the most dangerous worlds in the known galaxy. A world of extreme temperatures, a world of violent weather, a world filled with predators, poisons, and death at every corner." He paused for effect. The students held their breath. "We will discuss Earth." A wave of whispers spread through the room. Many students glanced back but he was not paying attention. He was looking out the window at the blue crystal mountains in the distance. He had seen this reaction before. Every time a professor mentioned Earth, everyone looked at him like he was some kind of monster. He had stopped caring weeks ago. Continued. Earth is classified as a Category 7 death world. This means that 93% of its native life forms are dangerous to other species in the galaxy. The remaining 7% are still being studied, but early reports suggest they are equally deadly. A student raised her paw. Her name was Lyra, and she had soft white fur and nervous pink eyes. "Professor, I heard that humans keep some of Earth's creatures as companions. Is that true?" "Yes," said. "Humans keep what they call pets. Some of these pets are descendants of wolves, one of Earth's most efficient pack hunters. Humans bred them over thousands of years until they became loyal companions. They call them dogs." The class gasped. A student clicked his shell in disbelief. "They domesticated wolves." "Indeed," said. "Humans have a strange habit of forming bonds with creatures that could kill them. They keep cats, which are small predators with retractable claws. They keep horses, large beasts that can crush bones with a single kick. Some humans even keep snakes, creatures that inject deadly venom through their fangs." Smiled a little. He had a dog back home, a golden retriever named. She was the sweetest creature in the world. She liked belly rubs and chasing tennis balls. The idea that aliens considered her terrifying was amusing to him. Professor pressed another button and the holographic image changed. Now it showed a round, red fruit. It was shiny and smooth, with a small brown stem at the top. A single green leaf hung from the stem. It looked simple. It looked harmless. It looked like something you might see in a child's drawing. "This," said, his voice dropping to a serious tone, "is the Crimson Death." The room went silent. Even the students who had been whispering stopped talking. They stared at the image with wide eyes and trembling bodies. The Crimson Death is a fruit that grows on trees in many regions of Earth. Humans call it by a different name, but we will use our classification for safety purposes. This fruit contains several compounds that are extremely dangerous to most species in the galaxy. Zoomed in on the image, showing a cross-section of the fruit. The flesh of this fruit is highly acidic. If it were to consume even a small bite, the acid would begin dissolving their internal organs within minutes. Death would follow within 2 to 3 hours. A student made a choking sound. Her transparent skin turned a pale shade of blue, which meant she was frightened. "The seeds," continued, pointing at the small black seeds in the center of the fruit, "contain a compound called cyanide. This chemical blocks the cells from using oxygen. For most species, consuming just 3 or 4 seeds would result in immediate respiratory failure." Lyra raised her paw again. "How did such a dangerous plant evolve?" "Excellent question," said. "The Crimson Death evolved as a defense mechanism. The tree produces these toxic fruits to protect itself from being eaten by animals. However, some Earth creatures developed immunity to the poison over millions of years. These creatures eat the fruit, digest the flesh, and spread the seeds through their waste. It is a deadly partnership." Was still looking out the window. He had heard enough lectures about Earth's dangers to last a lifetime. Everything on his home planet was apparently trying to kill everyone else in the galaxy. The water was too acidic. The air had too much oxygen. The sunlight caused radiation burns. Even the grass released chemicals that attracted insects that could paralyze aliens with a single sting. He reached down and unzipped his bag. He had skipped breakfast this morning because he woke up late. His stomach was growling, and he needed something to eat. He reached inside and felt around until his fingers touched something smooth and round. He pulled out a shiny red apple. It was a perfect apple. His mother had sent him a care package last week, and she had included a dozen apples from the orchard behind their house. They were his favorite snack. He loved the crisp texture and the sweet juice that filled his mouth with every bite. He lifted the apple to his lips, completely unaware that Professor was still talking about the fruit of death. He was unaware that the holographic image floating in the center of the room looked exactly like what he was holding in his hand. Took a big bite. The crunch echoed through the silent lecture hall like a gunshot. The sound of the crunch traveled through the lecture hall like a wave. It bounced off the walls. It echoed from the ceiling. It seemed to hang in the air for several long seconds before fading into silence. No one moved. Professor had stopped mid-sentence. His mouth was still open, but no words came out. His 4 arms hung frozen at his sides. His large black eyes, which normally showed calm intelligence, were now wide with something that looked like terror. A student sitting in the middle row was the first to turn around. Her name was, and she was one of the top students in the class. Her transparent skin allowed everyone to see her green blood, which was now pumping very fast through her veins. Her heart was beating so hard that the other students could actually watch it pounding inside her chest. Turned her head slowly like someone in a nightmare who knows they should not look but cannot stop themselves. Her eyes found in the back row. She saw the apple in his hand. She saw the juice dripping down his chin. She saw him chewing. She screamed. The scream was high and sharp like breaking glass. It filled the room and triggered a chain reaction. Other students turned around to see what had caused the outburst. When they saw with the Crimson Death in his hand, they screamed too. Lyra jumped from her seat and pressed herself against the wall. Her white fur stood up in every direction, making her look twice her normal size. This was a fear response that had developed millions of years ago to scare away predators. It did not help her feel any braver now. The students made clicking sounds with their shells as they scrambled over each other, trying to get away from the back of the room. One of them fell off his seat and landed on his back, his 6 legs kicking in the air as he struggled to flip himself over. "By the ancient stars," Professor shouted. He rushed toward, his 4 arms reaching out like he was trying to catch something falling from the sky. "Stop! Do not swallow!" Looked up from his apple. His cheeks were full, and his jaw was moving as he chewed. He blinked at the professor with confused eyes. He looked around the room and saw that every single student was staring at him with expressions of pure horror. He swallowed. The room went completely silent again. It was the kind of silence that comes after an explosion, when everyone is too shocked to make any sound. Several students covered their eyes. Lyra started crying softly, fainted and collapsed onto his shell. Wiped his mouth with the back of his hand. He said, "Is something wrong?" Professor reached him and grabbed his shoulders with 2 of his arms. The other 2 arms were waving frantically in the air. "The fruit," he shouted. "Where did you get that fruit?" Looked at the apple in his hand, then back at the professor. He had never seen a look so frightened before. Silver skin had turned a pale gray color, which assumed meant he was scared or sick or possibly both. "This," held up the apple, "it's an apple. My mom sent them from home." "Your mother sent you poison." Now was really confused. He pulled back slightly, still holding the apple. "What? No, it's just an apple, it's a fruit. Humans eat them all the time." Professor turned to the rest of the class. "Everyone remain calm. I am contacting the medical center immediately." He pressed a button on his wrist communicator and a blue light started blinking. "This is Professor in Lecture Hall 7. We have a medical emergency. A student has consumed the Crimson Death. I repeat, a student has consumed the Crimson Death." The voice on the other end crackled with static. "Professor, please confirm. Did you say Crimson Death?" "Yes, the fruit from Earth, the deadly one." "Understood. Medical team is on the way. Keep the student calm and do not let them consume any more of the substance." Professor ended the call and turned back to, "How do you feel? Are you dizzy? Is there pain in your chest? Can you still breathe properly?" Took another bite of the apple. Several students screamed again. Lyra covered her eyes with her paws and started praying to her ancestors. A student ran out of the room, unable to handle the stress anymore. "I feel fine," said through a mouthful of apple. "Actually, I feel pretty good. I was really hungry." Professor grabbed the apple from his hand. He held it carefully like it was a bomb that could explode at any moment. "Young man, do you not understand what you have done? You have consumed the Crimson Death. The flesh of this fruit contains acid that will destroy your internal organs. The seeds contain cyanide, which will stop your cells from using oxygen. You are going to die." Stared at the professor for a long moment. Then he started laughing. He could not help it. The whole situation was so ridiculous. Here he was, eating an apple like he had done thousands of times before, and everyone around him was acting like he had just swallowed a live grenade. The expressions on their faces were priceless. The screaming, the fainting, the praying, it was too much. "I'm sorry," said, still laughing. "I don't mean to be rude, but humans eat apples every day. Millions of apples, billions of apples. It's one of the most common fruits on Earth. We give them to children. We pack them in lunches. There's even a saying, an apple a day keeps the doctor away." Professor shook his head. "That is not possible. Our research clearly shows that the compounds in this fruit are lethal to carbon-based life forms." "Well, not to humans," said. "I mean, we don't eat the seeds. The seeds have a tiny bit of something bad in them, but you'd have to eat like 100 seeds for it to hurt you. And even then, you'd probably just get a stomach ache." The professor looked down at the apple in his hand, then back at, You knew the seeds were toxic and you still eat this fruit." Sure, we just spit out the seeds, or we eat around them, it's not a big deal. At that moment, the doors of the lecture hall burst open. A medical team rushed in, pushing a floating stretcher. There were 4 medics, all of them wearing white suits and carrying various tools and machines. They scanned the room quickly, looking for the dying student. The head medic, a tall with brown fur, approached Professor. "Where is the patient? We need to begin emergency treatment immediately." Pointed at the human. He consumed nearly an entire crimson death. The medics rushed to, surrounding him from all sides. One of them shined a light in his eyes. Another pressed a device against his chest to check his heartbeat. A third one opened a case filled with needles and tubes. "How are you feeling?" the head medic asked urgently. "Any pain, nausea, difficulty breathing?" "I'm fine," said. He was starting to feel uncomfortable with all these people around him. "Really? I just ate an apple. Humans eat apples." The medic with the chest device looked at his readings and frowned. "His vital signs are normal, heart rate is stable, oxygen levels are perfect." He looked at the head medic with confusion. "I don't understand. He should be dead by now." "Check again," the head medic ordered. "The machine must be broken." While the medics argued among themselves, noticed that Professor was still holding his apple. He reached out and took it back from the professor's loose grip. "Sorry, but I'm still hungry," he said. He took another bite. 3 medics fainted on the spot. The head medic grabbed the wall for support, looking like he might collapse himself. Professor made a sound that was somewhere between a gasp and a whimper. Lyra, the student, peeked through her paws and saw calmly eating the fruit of death like it was nothing. She had heard stories about humans before. She had heard that they came from a death world. She had heard that they were tough and resilient, but seeing it with her own eyes was different. This was not just survival. This was casual. This was routine. This human was eating poison the way she might eat a piece of bread. For the first time, Lyra truly understood why Earth was classified as a Category 7 death world. It was not just because the planet was dangerous. It was because the creatures who lived there thought danger was normal. Finished his apple, leaving only the core with the seeds. He looked around the room at all the shocked, terrified, unconscious faces staring at him. "Does anyone want one?" he asked, reaching into his bag. "I have more." Nobody answered. The silence was absolute, and somewhere in the back of Professor's mind, a terrible thought began to form. If humans could eat the crimson death without harm, what else could they survive? The news spread through the Galactic Academy like wildfire. By lunchtime, every student and professor had heard the story. A human had eaten the crimson death. Not just one bite, but an entire fruit. And he had survived. More than survived, he had enjoyed it. Walked through the cafeteria with his lunch tray, looking for an empty table. But something was different today. Normally, students avoided looking at him. They pretended he was not there. They kept their distance and whispered behind his back. Today, everyone was staring at him directly. Their eyes followed him as he moved through the room. Some students looked scared. Some looked curious. Some looked at him the way a small animal might look at a large predator that had wandered into their territory. He found a table in the corner and sat down. His lunch consisted of a sandwich, a bottle of water, and another apple. He had decided to bring 2 apples today after missing breakfast. The second one sat on his tray, shiny and red under the cafeteria lights. A shadow fell over his table. Looked up and saw Lyra standing there. Her white fur was still a little messy from the morning's excitement, and her pink eyes kept darting between his face and the apple on his tray. "Can I help you?" asked. Lyra took a deep breath. "May I sit with you?" Was surprised. In 2 months at the academy, no one had ever asked to sit with him. He gestured to the empty seat across from him. "Sure, go ahead." Lyra sat down carefully, keeping her paws on the table where could see them. It was a sign of trust among. It meant she was not hiding anything. It also meant she was nervous. I wanted to apologize, she said, for screaming in class. I did not mean to be rude. It's okay, said. He took a bite of his sandwich. I understand, you thought I was dying. We all did. Lyra leaned forward slightly. Can I ask you something about the fruit? The apple, sure. Professor said the acid in the flesh would dissolve organs. He said the seeds contained cyanide. How can you eat something so dangerous and feel nothing? Thought about this for a moment. It was hard to explain because to him, apples were just apples. They were not dangerous. They were not scary. They were one of the most basic foods on Earth. I guess humans evolved to handle it, he said. We've been eating apples for thousands of years. Our bodies learned how to process the acids and neutralize the small amounts of toxins. It's like how some animals can eat plants that would poison other animals. Evolution made us compatible. Lyra nodded slowly. So your species adapted to consume poison. Well, we don't think of it as poison. To us, it's just food. Picked up the second apple and offered it to her. Want to try a bite? I'm just kidding, he added quickly when he saw her face turn pale. I know it would hurt you. Lyra let out a nervous laugh. I appreciate the offer, but I would like to keep my internal organs intact. More students started gathering near his table. They did not sit down, but they stood at a respectful distance, watching and listening. Some of them were whispering to each other, could hear bits of their conversations. He's eating another one. The medics checked him 3 times. His body shows no damage at all. My professor said humans eat hundreds of different toxic plants. A student pushed his way to the front of the small crowd. His shell was dark blue, and his 6 legs clicked against the floor as he moved. Human, is it true that your species also consumes capsaicin? Swallowed his bite of sandwich. Capsaicin, you mean like spicy food? Yeah, lots of humans love spicy food. The crowd gasped. They made a clicking sound that might have been disbelief or horror. Capsaicin is a chemical weapon. It causes intense burning sensations. Military forces use it to disable enemies. We put it on everything, said. Tacos, curry, stir-fry pizza. Some people even have competitions to see who can eat the spiciest food. A student spoke up from the back. Is that why humans add capsaicin to their food, to prove their strength? No, we just like the taste, it's fun. The crowd went silent. They exchanged glances with each other, struggling to understand what kind of creature could think chemical warfare was fun. Lyra leaned closer too, lowering her voice. What other things do humans eat that we would consider dangerous? Scratched his head, thinking. Well, there's caffeine. We put that in coffee and tea and chocolate. It's a stimulant that can be toxic in large doses, but we drink it every morning to wake up. Every morning, Lyra's ears went flat against her head. Yeah, some humans drink 3 or 4 cups of coffee a day. What else? Was starting to enjoy this. He had never thought about how strange human food might seem to other species. There's alcohol. We make drinks from fermented plants and drink them at parties. It's technically a poison, but we like how it makes us feel. You drink poison for recreation. We call it having a good time, smiled. Oh, and there's theobromine in chocolate. That's toxic to a lot of animals on Earth, but humans love chocolate. We eat it as candy, put it in cakes, drink it hot during winter. A young in the crowd fainted. 2 of his friends caught him and dragged him away from the table. Continued, counting on his fingers. Nutmeg can cause hallucinations if you eat too much. Mustard and horseradish contain compounds that can damage tissue. Citrus fruits have strong acids. Tomatoes are part of a plant family that includes deadly nightshade. Raw fish can contain parasites, but we eat it as sushi anyway because it tastes good. The crowd had grown to about 20 students now. Some of them were recording the conversation on their personal devices. Noticed a few professors standing in the doorway of the cafeteria, watching from a distance. How is your species not extinct? The student asked. His voice was shaky. "We're pretty hard to kill," said simply. He took a bite of his apple. Lyra watched him chew. "You really do not feel any fear when you eat that, do you?" "Why would I? It's just an apple," held up the fruit, looking at it. "My mom grew these in our backyard. She makes pies with them. My little sister likes to dip apple slices in peanut butter." "What is peanut butter?" "It's a paste made from crushing peanuts. Some humans are allergic to peanuts. It can actually kill them if they eat it, but for the rest of us it's delicious." Lyra blinked several times. "So some humans are vulnerable to certain foods." "Yeah, allergies are pretty common. Some people can die from eating shellfish or eggs or wheat, but those same foods are perfectly safe for other humans. Our species is weird like that." A professor pushed through the crowd, recognized him. It was Professor. He looked tired, like he had not slept since the incident in class. His silver skin was still slightly gray around the edges. "Mister," said, "I need to speak with you privately." Stood up, grabbing his tray. "Sure, let me just finish this apple first." "Please," held up all four hands. "Please stop eating that in front of everyone. You are causing considerable distress." Looked around at the crowd of alien students. Most of them were staring at his apple with expressions of absolute terror. He suddenly felt bad. He had been so focused on explaining human food that he forgot how traumatic this must be for them. "Sorry," he said. He put the apple back on his tray and covered it with a napkin. "I didn't mean to scare anyone." Led out of the cafeteria and down a long hallway. They walked in silence past classrooms and laboratories and research centers. Finally, they reached a door marked Faculty Conference Room, opened it, and gestured for to enter. Inside, there was a large table surrounded by chairs. Several professors were already seated, representing different species from across the galaxy. They all turned to look at as he walked in. "Please sit down," said, pointing to an empty chair. Sat. He felt like he was in trouble, even though he was not sure what he had done wrong. "Mr. began, we have been reviewing all available research on human biology since this morning's incident. What we have discovered is troubling." "Troubling how?" A professor spoke up. Her name tag read Doctor. She had kind eyes, but they were filled with concern. "We knew that Earth was dangerous. We knew that humans came from a harsh environment, but we did not fully understand what that meant until today." "I don't understand," said. Professor pressed a button, and a holographic display appeared above the table. It showed a long list of substances. "These are all compounds that are toxic or lethal to most species in the galaxy. Acids, poisons, chemical irritants, biological hazards. We have identified 147 distinct substances on this list." Looked at the list. He recognized some of the chemical names. "Okay. Mister, humans regularly consume 112 of them." The room fell silent, stared at the list, trying to process what he was hearing. "You eat foods containing mercury," doctor said. "Tuna fish. You eat foods containing arsenic. Rice. You willingly consume ethanol, caffeine, theobromine, capsaicin, allicin, and dozens of other compounds that would kill or seriously injure most other species." "We evolved on a death world," said quietly. "I guess we had to adapt or die." Professor leaned forward. "That is precisely what concerns us, mister. Your species did not just survive Earth. Your species conquered it. You became the apex predators of an entire planet filled with things that could kill you. And you did it by learning to eat the very things that tried to kill you." Did not know what to say. He had never thought of himself as dangerous. He was just a student. He liked reading books and watching movies and eating apples from his mom's garden. But looking at the fear in the eyes of everyone in the room, he began to understand. To them, he was not just a student. He was a living example of evolution at its most terrifying. He was human. And humans ate death for breakfast. The meeting in the faculty conference room lasted for 3 hours. answered question after question about human biology, human food, and human survival. By the end of it, he felt exhausted. He had never talked so much in his entire life. Professor escorted him back to his dormitory building as the twin suns began to set. The sky turned beautiful shades of purple and orange, and the blue crystal mountains glowed with reflected light. "I apologize for keeping you so long," said. "We had many concerns." "It's okay, I understand," walked slowly, enjoying the cool evening air. "I never realized how different humans were from everyone else. On Earth, we're just normal." Made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Mister, there is nothing normal about your species. I say this with complete respect. In my 200 years of studying xenobiology, I have never encountered a species quite like yours." "Is that a good thing or a bad thing?" The professor considered this question carefully. "It is a fascinating thing, and perhaps a little frightening, but I believe it is mostly good. The galaxy needs more fascinating things." They reached his dormitory building and stopped outside the entrance. Extended one of his 4 hands for a handshake, a gesture he had learned from Earth cultural files. "Thank you for your patience today," said. "I hope we did not make you feel like a specimen under a microscope." "Only a little," shook the professor's hand, "but I'm used to being stared at." He went inside and took the elevator to the 4th floor. His room was small but comfortable, with a bed, a desk, a window overlooking the Crystal Mountains, and a small kitchen area where he kept his food. He opened his bag and placed the remaining apples from his mother's care package on the counter. There was a knock at his door. Was surprised. In 2 months, nobody had ever visited his room. He walked over and pressed the button to open the door. Lyra was standing in the hallway. She was holding a small box in her paws. "Hi," she said nervously. "I hope I am not bothering you." "No, not at all," stepped aside. "Do you want to come in?" Lyra entered his room cautiously, her ears twitching as she looked around. She noticed the apples on the counter and quickly looked away from them. "I brought you something," she said, holding out the box. "It is a traditional welcome gift. We give it to new neighbors and friends. I should have given it to you when you first arrived at the academy, but she paused. "I was afraid of you." Took the box and opened it. Inside were several small cakes that looked like they were made from some kind of grain and honey. They smelled sweet and pleasant. "Thank you," he said. "These look delicious. Are they safe for humans to eat?" "Yes, I checked with the medical center before I came. The ingredients are compatible with human digestion." Took one of the cakes and bit into it. It was soft and sweet, with a flavor that reminded him of almonds. "This is really good." Lyra's ears perked up with happiness. "I am glad you like it. My mother makes them. I asked her to send a batch when I told her about you." "You told your mother about me?" "I told everyone about you." Lyra sat down on the edge of his bed, then quickly stood up again, looking embarrassed. "I apologize. I should have asked before sitting." "It's fine. Sit anywhere you like." Lyra sat back down, this time more relaxed. "The story of the human who ate the Crimson Death is spreading across the galaxy. My mother said it has already reached her home world. Everyone wants to know more about humans." Sat in his desk chair, eating another small cake. "Is that a problem?" "I do not think so. I think it is making people curious about Earth. Before today, most species avoided humans because they were scared. But now," Lyra paused, searching for the right words, "now they are still scared, but they are also impressed. Does that make sense?" "I think so. Like how people might be scared of a lion, but also think lions are amazing." "Yes, exactly like that." Lyra smiled, showing her small white teeth. "You are like a lion that also knows how to solve math problems and have polite conversations." Laughed. It was the first time he had laughed with another student at the academy. It felt good. "Can I ask you something?" Lyra said. "About your home world?" "Sure." "What is it like? Earth, I mean. We learn about it in classes, but all we hear is how dangerous it is. Volcanoes and earthquakes and hurricanes and predators. But you seem to miss it. I saw your face when you talked about your mother's apple trees. Looked out the window at the Crystal Mountains. They were beautiful, but they were not home. Earth is dangerous, he said. Everything they teach you is true. We have disasters that can level cities. We have diseases that can kill millions. We have animals that hunt us and plants that poison us. That sounds terrible. But it's also beautiful, turned back to Lyra. We have oceans so big you can sail for weeks without seeing land. We have forests so thick that sunlight barely reaches the ground. We have mountains covered in snow and deserts made of golden sand. We have millions of different species, insects, fish, birds, mammals. Every corner of our planet has life, fighting to survive. Lyra listened with wide eyes. It sounds like a world at war with itself. Maybe it is, but that's what makes it special. Everything on Earth has to be strong to survive, including us. Humans are not the fastest or strongest animals on our planet. We don't have claws or fangs or venom, but we learn to adapt. We learn to think. We learn to build tools and work together. And eat poison, Lyra added with a small smile. And eat poison, agreed. Whatever it took to survive, we did it. And eventually, we didn't just survive. We thrived. We covered the entire planet. We built cities and roads and machines. We even left our planet and went to the stars. That is incredible. Your species achieved so much despite such hostile conditions. Maybe because of them. Picked up one of the apples from his counter and looked at it. My grandmother used to say that humans are made of struggle. Every challenge makes us stronger. Every danger teaches us something new. We don't avoid hard things. We face them. We adapt to them. We overcome them. Lyra was quiet for a moment. Then she said, I think I understand why you were not afraid to eat the apple today. Why? Because you have never known a world without danger. To you, risk is normal. Risk is just another part of life. She shook her head slowly. For my species, we spent millions of years on a peaceful planet. Our biggest threat was occasionally bad weather. We never had to develop the kind of resilience your species has. That sounds nice, said, peaceful. It was, but it also means we are weak. Lyra's ears drooped slightly. When my species first encountered hostile aliens, we did not know how to fight. We did not know how to resist. We almost lost everything before the Galactic Council came to protect us. Felt a wave of sympathy for her. I'm sorry, that must have been terrifying. It was, but today, watching you eat the crimson death without fear, I thought maybe there is something we can learn from humans. Maybe fear is not always bad. Maybe facing danger can make you stronger, not weaker. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Outside, the sky grew darker as night fell over the crystal moon. Would you like to have dinner together? Lyra asked suddenly. The cafeteria has food that is safe for both our species. I checked. Smiled, I would like that. They walked to the cafeteria together. Along the way, other students stopped to watch them. A walking side by side with a human. It was unusual. It was strange. But it was also somehow right. When they entered the cafeteria, conversation stopped. Heads turned. Eyes followed them as they got their food and found a table. Sat down with his tray, which contained a simple meal of vegetables and rice. No apples this time. He did not want to cause another panic. Lyra sat across from him with her own meal. She glanced around at all the students staring at them. Everyone is watching us. Let them watch, started eating. Maybe if they see us having a normal meal together, they'll realize I'm not so scary. I do not think it will be that easy. You ate the crimson death, remember. That story will follow you forever. Great, I'll be known as the guy who ate an apple. Lyra giggled. It was a soft musical sound. The deadliest snack in the galaxy. They continued eating and talking. They talked about their classes. They talked about their families. They talked about their hopes for the future. and slowly other students began to approach their table. First, it was a curious who asked if he could sit with them. Then a group of students joined. Then two. Before long, his table was surrounded by aliens of all species, all wanting to ask questions and hear stories. For the first time since arriving at the academy, did not feel alone. He was still the human. He was still the strange creature from the death world. But now, maybe, he was also something more. He was starting to become a friend. 3 months had passed since the Apple incident. The story had spread far beyond the Galactic Academy, reaching every corner of known space. News channels covered it. Scientists debated it. Children on distant planets asked their parents about the humans who ate poison for fun. Had become something of a celebrity, though he did not enjoy the attention. Students still stared at him, but now it was more from curiosity than fear. Some of them even waved when they saw him in the hallways. He had gone from being the scary human to being the fascinating human, which was an improvement. Lyra had become his closest friend at the academy. They studied together, ate meals together, and spent their free time exploring the crystal mountains outside the campus. She was patient with his questions about alien cultures, and he was patient with her questions about Earth. It was a good friendship. Today was the last day of the semester. Professor had called a special assembly in the main lecture hall. All students were required to attend, and rumors were spreading that something important was going to happen. And Lyra found seats in the middle of the hall. The room was packed with hundreds of students from dozens of different species. The air buzzed with nervous energy and whispered conversations. Professor walked onto the stage, followed by several other professors and a group of officials wearing formal uniforms. Recognized the symbols on their uniforms. They were representatives of the Galactic Council, the governing body of the known universe. "Good morning, students," said into the microphone. His voice echoed through the hall. "Thank you for gathering here today. We have an important announcement to make." He pressed a button, and a holographic image appeared above the stage. It showed Earth, a blue and green sphere floating in the darkness of space. As many of you know, Earth has been classified as a Category 7 death world for over 200 years. This classification has led to strict limitations on human participation in galactic affairs. Humans have been restricted from certain careers, certain research fields, and certain diplomatic positions. The reasoning was that a species from such a dangerous world might pose a threat to other civilizations. Felt his stomach tighten. He had always known about these restrictions. It was why there were so few humans in the student exchange program. It was why most aliens kept their distance from Earth. Continued. However, recent events have caused the Galactic Council to reconsider this classification. A council official stepped forward. She was a tall being with golden skin and multiple eyes arranged in a circle around her head. Her voice was calm and authoritative. "I am ambassador of the Galactic Council. 3 months ago, we received reports of an incident at this academy. A human student consumed a substance that our databases indicated was lethal. When we investigated, we discovered something remarkable." The holographic image changed to show a list of toxic substances. The same list had seen in the faculty conference room. "Our research into human biology has revealed that they regularly consume over 100 compounds that are toxic to most species. They thrive in environments that would kill others. They heal from injuries that would be fatal for any other race. And they do all of this without special technology or genetic modification. It is simply who they are." The audience was completely silent. Every eye in the room was focused on the ambassador. For 200 years, we saw humans as a threat because they came from a dangerous world. We feared that creatures who could survive such conditions must be violent and unpredictable. But we were wrong. Felt Lyra's paw touch his hand gently. He looked at her, and she smiled with encouragement. The truth is that humans are remarkably peaceful considering where they came from. They have every biological advantage for aggression, yet they choose cooperation. They could dominate through strength, yet they build partnerships. They have learned that survival is not about being the strongest or the most dangerous. It is about working together. Ambassador turned to face directly. "Mister, would you please join me on the stage?" His heart started racing. He had not expected this. Lyra gave him a gentle push, and he stood up on shaking legs. The walk to the stage felt like the longest walk of his life. Every student in the hall was watching him. He climbed the steps and stood next to the ambassador. Up close, he could see that her golden skin shimmered like sunlight on water. Her multiple eyes blinked at him with what he thought might be kindness. "Mister," she said, "you have shown the galaxy that humans are not monsters. You have made friends with species who were afraid of you. You have shared knowledge about your world without anger or resentment. You have represented your people with dignity and grace." She turned back to the audience. "The Galactic Council has voted to change Earth's classification from Category 7 Death World to Category 7 Resilience World. This new classification acknowledges the challenges of the planet while also recognizing the remarkable adaptability of its people. All restrictions on human participation in galactic affairs are hereby removed." The hall erupted in applause. Students stood from their seats, clapping and cheering. Saw Lyra jumping up and down with excitement, her white fur bouncing with every leap. He did not know what to say. He had come to this academy as an outsider, a curiosity, a potential threat. And now he was standing on a stage while hundreds of aliens celebrated his people. "Mr. Ambassador said, would you like to say something?" Looked out at the crowd. He saw Professor smiling with all four arms crossed. He saw Lyra wiping tears from her pink eyes. He saw students of every species looking at him with respect and admiration. He cleared his throat and leaned toward the microphone. "When I first came here," he said, his voice wavering slightly, "I thought I would never fit in. I was the only human. Everyone was scared of me. I ate lunch alone every day for 2 months." Some students in the audience looked down, embarrassed. "But then I ate an apple in class, and everything changed." A few nervous laughs rippled through the crowd. "I learned something important over these past 3 months. Fear is natural. When you meet something different, something unfamiliar, something that challenges everything you thought you knew, it's normal to be afraid. But fear doesn't have to be the end of the story. It can be the beginning." He looked at Lyra and smiled. "My best friend at this academy is 3 months ago she was terrified of me. She literally screamed when she saw me eating an apple. But instead of letting that fear control her, she came to my room and gave me a gift. She chose curiosity over fear. She chose friendship over distance." Lyra was crying openly now, but she was also smiling the biggest smile had ever seen. "Humans come from a hard world. We had to be tough to survive. We had to eat things that could kill us. We had to face dangers every single day. But that doesn't make us monsters. It makes us survivors. And survivors know the value of allies, of friends, of working together." He took a deep breath. "I hope that Earth's new classification will lead to more humans coming to places like this academy. I hope that more friendships will form between our species. And I hope that someday, nobody will be afraid of humans just because we come from a death world. Because at the end of the day, we're all just trying to survive. We're all just trying to find our place in the universe. We're all just looking for someone to share a meal with." He paused, "even if that meal includes the occasional apple." The audience laughed, and then the applause returned, louder than before. Students stamped their feet and clicked their shells and waved their tentacles in the air. It was overwhelming. Stepped back from the microphone, his heart pounding. Professor approached him and extended all 4 hands for a complicated handshake. "Well done, Mister," said. "You have made history today." "I didn't do anything," said. "I just ate my lunch." Sometimes, replied with a warm smile, the simplest actions have the greatest impact. After the assembly and Lyra walked together through the crystal mountains, the twin suns were setting, painting the sky in beautiful colors. The blue crystals caught the light and scattered it into rainbows. So, Lyra said, how does it feel to be a galactic hero? Weird, admitted. I still think of myself as just a regular guy. You are not a regular guy. You are a human, and humans are anything but regular. Lyra stopped walking and faced him. Thank you. For what? For being patient with us, for not getting angry when we were afraid, for showing us that different doesn't mean dangerous. She reached out and hugged him, her soft fur warm against his skin. Thank you for being my friend. Hugged her back. Thank you for giving me a chance. They continued walking as the sun set and the stars began to appear. Somewhere out there, far across the galaxy, Earth was spinning in its orbit. His mother was probably in her garden right now, checking on the apple trees. His little sister was probably doing homework at the kitchen table. His dog was probably sleeping on the couch, waiting for him to come home. He would see them again soon. The semester was over and he had a few weeks of break before the next one started. But he knew he would come back to the academy. He had friends here now. He had a place. And maybe, just maybe, he had helped change the galaxy a little bit for the better. All because he was hungry and forgot to eat breakfast. Lyra looked up at the stars. Do you think more humans will come to the academy next semester? I hope so. I'd like to introduce you to some of my friends from Earth. Are they all like you, able to eat poison without dying? Grinned, some of them are even worse. My friend once ate a ghost pepper on a dare. That's one of the spiciest things on Earth. He cried for an hour, but he finished the whole thing. Lyra shook her head in amazement. Your species is terrifying. We prefer the term resilient. They laughed together as the night settled over the crystal mountains. Above them, the stars twinkled like distant promises, and the future stretched out before them, full of possibilities. On a moon far from Earth, a human and an alien walked side by side. And the galaxy would never be the same.